Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about this is what avoidants feel when you go no contact. So there are two kind of situations here, okay? So you need to tailor it to what's going on with you because this is not going to be a one-size-fits-all video because we're dealing with individual people here, individual circumstances. So it's very difficult for me to make a prediction on how absolutely every single person is going to respond who's an avoidant when someone goes into no contact with them, okay? Because there's lots of different factors to take into consideration, okay? But generally there are two routes, okay? And that is, the two routes are this, okay? So if that avoidant still cares about you, how they're going to react, and how the avoidant who does still care about you, how they're going to react, okay? So you have to tailor it to you. Do you know if that person, do you have an inkling if that person still cares about you? Does that avoidant still care about you? Because if they do, then they're going to be displaying different behaviors and they're going to be thinking and feeling different things than the avoidant who no longer cares about you. So let's go into if they don't care. Okay, so if that avoidant no longer cares about you and you go into no contact with them, perhaps they will be a little bit confused as to why you're no longer talking to them, and you're not engaging with them anymore. You're not trying to make things happen anymore. So maybe there'll be some confusion there. But if they don't care about you, that's about all that they will feel, okay? Because they will just be like, oh, okay, I guess they're gone. And then they can, they will just be moving on with their life because that's probably what they've already been doing anyway. So you're not going to get much of a reaction out of an avoidant who no longer cares about you, okay? You're not going to hear anything from them more than likely, okay? And they're not going to feel much, apart from maybe a bit of confusion. So if they do care about you then, what about if they do care? So if this person does care about you, still has feelings for you in some way, is attracted to you in some way, if they care, then what will happen is when you stop talking to them and you go into no contact, they will begin to fear losing you, okay? And if you imagine it sort of this way, okay, so imagine someone you really care about called you up and they said, hi, just to let you know, I'm no longer going to talk to you anymore. Goodbye, basically, right? If that's someone you really loved and cared about, you'd be like, oh, wait. You'd backpedal. You'd be like, wait. Before you hang up, let's just talk through this. What's going on? Because you care about them, okay? But if someone calls you up and you don't know them, right, and they say to you, sorry, you just let you know, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It's like, well, okay, fine. I don't know who you are. I don't care, right? So that's the reaction that is going to happen with them, okay? So if they care about you and they can sense that you've pulled away and you're no longer talking to them, they're going to be like, whoa, wait, what do you mean? Even if they don't say that to you, that's what they're going to be feeling, okay? They're going to be fearing losing you, okay? And they're going to try in some way, in some shape or form, maybe not very directly because they're an avoidant, but they will try in some shape or form to keep the connection alive in some way. Okay, so maybe if they're a big avoidant, maybe they'll send their friend out to you, and maybe they'll try and fish for information. They will go around different ways, basically, to try and get in contact with you, but they will not do so directly. Okay, so notice for little signs that they are trying to reach out to you in some way without directly going to you. Now, what I will say about this, about avoidance, okay, is that it's not really the best idea, if you're not an avoidant yourself, to be in a relationship with an avoidant, okay? Obviously, you kind of have to think about your own situation and what's happened here, because it could be that this whole thing was your fault, okay? Or it could be that the whole thing was their fault, or maybe it was a mixture of your fault, their fault, okay? So we don't know. Only you know what's going on with you and your relationship with them, okay? But the problem with an avoidant is that they do exactly that. They avoid, okay? And sometimes they can be quite stubborn. So even if they were in the wrong and the relationship disintegrated because of them, or the connection, maybe you weren't in a relationship yet, but it just, for whatever reason, it disintegrated, and it was because of them. You were trying, you were in contact with them, you were trying to make things happen, you were trying to fix things, but because they're an avoidant, right, they didn't engage with that because they're avoiding you, okay? Now, why is this bad, and why is this bad for you? If you're someone who can communicate honestly, and that's probably what you have been doing, if you've been trying to keep this connection alive with them, if you've been trying to fix things, and they've just been completely ignoring it, if you've been trying to fix things, and they haven't been doing anything, and you feel like you're banging on a brick wall, that's exactly how it's going to be if you two end up in a relationship again, or in a relationship if you haven't been in a relationship already with them. If you guys end up together, that's how your experience through life with them will be, because most people will not change who they are. Okay, so if they're an avoidant and you're someone who has an open communication and you try and fix things, you're the one that's always, every single time, even if it's their fault, you're the one every single time that's going to have to be picking up the pieces. You're the one that's always going to have to be trailing after the mess that they leave behind and trying to fix things. It's almost like damage control, right? They make more mess, you fix it, and they make more mess, you fix it, even though it's their fault. But because they're an avoidant and they're maybe stubborn, they're not willing to fix things. They think other people should fix things. They think other people, even when it's their fault, should come to them and apologize and try and fix things because they're an avoidant. Okay, so it's not a good idea to be in a relationship with an avoidant. An avoidant, in a lot of ways, should learn to try and fix themselves and to become less of an avoidant. Okay, especially if they want to be in a relationship with someone who is more open. Okay, like how you might be. So they need to go on their own journey. But the thing is that most people are not willing to work through their issues, not willing to work through their problems. Okay, most people are just willing to just stew in their own mess and not change themselves. Whereas you're watching a self-improvement video, so you're someone who's probably open to change, open to learn new things, open to learn new techniques to improve, to get better. But the majority of the population are not like this. So you're actually an outlier, and you're a very rare individual. And you deserve to be with someone who is also like that, who is willing to learn, willing to communicate, willing to change, try and change things for the better, instead of just staying in their own stubborn, stagnant way that they've always been since probably the age of 15. Okay, and they just haven't evolved. They're just a perpetual teenager. And that's what you'll find with most people. Okay, even people in their 70s, I've noticed, still act like teenagers. They sulk and, do all these things. It's like, you can notice these behaviors, and basically what it means is that they just haven't evolved since the age of 17 or 18. They're just still the same person, and they continue living like that after they finish school, when they go into the workplace, when they get older, when they get into marriages, when they just don't change, because people think that once they've gone through the education system, that's it. They've learned everything there is to know. They don't need to do anymore. They don't do any kind of like self-education. They don't come to like videos like mine to try and learn things, to try and get better, to try and improve, to try and fill in their knowledge gaps. They just don't do it. They just continue to be that teenager that they've always been. Right? And that's why you can meet people who are like in their 70s or 80s and they still act like teenagers. Okay? They just haven't evolved. They just haven't tried. They just haven't changed. They've been stuck in their ways, and they just haven't had the self-awareness to improve, and they think they know it all. Okay, whereas someone like you is more humble, and you know that perhaps you've got knowledge gaps, which is why you get coaching with me, whether it is you purchase coaching with me, or you read my book, or you watch my videos. It may not even be me that you watch and observe and learn from. It may be someone else here on the internet. But either way, you're learning, you're trying to improve. You're one of those very rare individuals that is actually turning into a real adult, and is willing to make things better, okay? But avoidants usually aren't one of those kinds of people. Avoidance usually not just because the way that I understand it is this, is that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. Okay, so if an avoidant avoids people that they like, avoids relationships, avoids admitting to their own faults, avoids anything. That's usually how they deal with everything in life. Okay, so they're not willing to improve. In fact, they would have rather avoid it because it's the unknown, and they'd rather just stay the way that they are. Okay, so they avoid improving, they avoid their relationships, they avoid learning new skills because they're an avoidant. It's just part of their personality. It's just part of who they are. Okay, so it's always better to find someone who is more like you, because you're going to have a more happier relationship with someone who is more like you. You're going to have a better time with someone who's more like you, someone who's open and willing to learn how to grow, to get better, and to improve. That's the kind of person that you want to be with, because that's the kind of person you are. Okay, because it's going to be a very exhausting, tiring journey for you if you end up in a relationship, a long-term relationship, let's say you're with them for 50 years with an avoidant, because you're the one that's always going to be picking up the pieces. You're going to be stressed out of your mind, and life is already stressful already. So at least with a lover, that's something that you have under your control. You can pick and choose who you want to spend your life with to a certain degree. Okay, you can choose to be with one person, and you can choose to not be with another kind of person. Okay, so I would suggest that you choose to be with someone who makes life easier for you rather than harder, because life is already pretty tough already. Okay, we've got the stresses of work, you've got the stresses of things happening in your life that are out of your control. Think back a few years ago to like the pandemic and things. These are things are happening all the time that are out of our control. Okay, but finding a lover, finding a partner is something that is in your control. So you should find a partner who makes life easier for you rather than harder. And if you're with an avoidant, I can guarantee that your life is going to be extremely difficult, especially if you are not an avoidant yourself. Because if two avoidants get together, then they can just avoid things together, and they can just live in their own misery, basically. Okay, whereas if someone is with an avoidant and they're not an avoidant, it's usually the person who isn't the avoidant who who has a worse time of it. Okay, because you're the one that's having to do all the work, and if things go sideways, you're the one that's having to always apologize, even if it was their fault, and it's just a huge mess. So take what is in your control and try and make the greatest benefit of it by finding someone who isn't an avoidant, someone who knows how to communicate, knows how to improve themselves, is willing to own up to their mistakes when they're wrong, and can communicate in a healthy way. Avoidants cannot communicate in a healthy way. They would rather avoid communication. They would rather avoid everything. Okay, so that's what I suggest that you do, and if you find yourself in this situation. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloverish.com. And if you'd like more tips and you'd like to learn how to attract the beautiful woman of your dreams, then you can go and coach yourself by reading this book. You can read it completely for free on my website. Just go to www.christineloverish.com and then click on the menu on the website and then click on the book, literally titled The Book, and it will take you straight to the PDF reader. You don't need to log in, you don't need to sign up. It's there for you to read completely for free. Okay, and if you'd like coaching with me, then you can go to the same website and just pick whichever coaching option works best for you at this current time. Or if you, again, prefer to coach yourself, read the book or watch the next video. And I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.